and welcome back to another episode of the Fusion Podcast. I'm Sam. Vicky, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm doing well. We've just spoken to Rhondell, who is a student worker in Derby, and he also owns a non-alcoholic bar. So I'm just all kinds of mind blown right now. It was a really good conversation. You are in for a treat.
You really are. So yeah, Rhondell some of his mates have got their hands on a bar in central Derby, and it's serving alcohol-free drinks and mocktails.
Very good.
And we spend the time, Vicky, chatting about the kind of heart behind it and the value in spending time away from alcohol as we engage with university culture. So there's some interesting stats that are going to be in the podcast as well that give you an idea of what university students themselves think of alcohol at uni. It might not be what you expect. So if you're kind of maybe in the first year of uni or about to go to university, this is definitely one you're going to want to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good. And also, I'm very excited about this. If you keep watching all the way to the end or listening, whatever device you're on, you'll have a discount code to order from Yada online. So I'm not saying what that discount code is, but if you wait until the end, you will be able to use that.
So yeah, you've got to listen the whole way through, and then there's a little special treat from our friends at Yada at the end. Let's take it away. Great, so we're joined now by Rhondell. Rhondell, introduce yourself to us.
Hi, yeah, I'm Rhondell Stabana. I'm from Derby. I'm one of the student workers here at Reach Derby as well. Full-time, I work at the university as a sports development officer, but also why I'm here today is to talk about the Yada Collective, which is I'm one of the co-founders of.
We had a long conversation about how to pronounce Yada.
Yes.
Be it Yada or Yada, but we're going with Yada. Do you want to tell us about the name? That's probably a good place to start, isn't it? Actually,
yeah.
Should we start with the name? What is Yada as a kind of word, and then we'll unpack what it means for what you're doing with it.
Yeah. So in Hebrew, it actually so it's a Hebrew word. It means to know, and like all Hebrew words, there's a little bit of a deeper meaning behind it. It's used in several different places, but the actual just the root stance of it is just to know. Why we picked it, we thought, well, basically we're running an alcohol-free bar is the quickest way of saying it, and what we kind of how we got there was just kind of saying, well, actually we want to have real relationships, real community, something that wasn't surface level, which is a lot of what the nighttime economy is, and without the influence of alcohol, you can build those deeper relationships about truly knowing each other. And then obviously from our side as a bunch of guys who believe in Jesus, we said part of what we're trying to do is for people to know each other properly, know each other properly, and then also from our side to know God and how that is reflected in what we do. So that to know that whole deeper, meaningful relationships and community was kind of where it was born from, really.
Wow.
Love that. So 3 guys then have ended up with a bar, an alcohol-free bar in central Derby. How does that happen?
with a lot of intervention from God. So I think and a bit of luck as well. So yeah, so basically me and one of my best friends, Craig, so we both went to Derby University, graduated at the same time. We were opposite ends, I guess, in terms of the nightlife. So Craig was the president of the Christian Union. I was the president of rugby. So I was the one on the nights out. He was the one giving the water. But I obviously I still went to CU for mainly first and second year, a little bit of third year as well. Yeah, we were obviously good friends. I was best man at his wedding and all that sort of stuff. But basically after we'd graduated, we were the type of students who loved blue sky thinking. When we used to go to the Fusion, before they were conferences, what were they called? We went to like Trent Vineyard and did like weekends there. We like slept in the church and stuff.
Cool.
They were like what was before the conferences. And we used to do like planning days and all that sort of stuff. And we loved the blue sky thinking, and I think through that we'd come up with a load of different ideas that we really wanted to do, but as students you can't really do them all. And as we as we graduated, we were like, what? So a lot of the stuff we were talking about was in the nighttime economy. What we started asking questions around that. We started thinking, actually, I can't bring some of my friends to church, but I can take them on a night out. What is in the middle that exists, that's a bit more, it encourages conversations, it encourages community, it gives you a space to chat properly, I guess. And it's really hard talking in a club. A lot of shouting, a lot of mishearing. But yeah, we were thinking what was in the middle. And at that exact time, and this is why I say kind of God was definitely weaving some things in. As we were talking about this, the new CEO of Derby City Mission, which is a Christian charity here in the city, they work with the vulnerable of our city. So they do the homeless shelters over the winter. They do debt relief advice. They also run the street pastors over here. They just got a new CEO, and one of his questions when he was interviewing for the job was, do you guys do anything in the nighttime economy? So it literally just met in the middle. We ended up meeting, we ended up talking, and we decided to create this, and we ran alcohol-free nights for 2-3 years. And then just before we went into lockdown, we were offered a building, and we were like, oh, I think we can do this. So we've come away from the charity, and we've created our own community interest company. So it's a not-for-profit. And yeah, we're going to be giving this a go. So we're just fixing up the building now. I was just there this morning. It's looking good. And yeah, we're hoping to open June time. June time, restrictions allowing. Yeah, once people can gather in a little bit more than 6, it makes it a bit easier for us. So yeah, that's where we're at.
That's so cool. I love that. And that's such good creativity and ingenuity. And you've kind of talked about this a little bit with your vision at the start. What is your biggest hope and dream for Yada once it's up and running?
I hope there was more than one. It's quite interesting because like I said, we're quite blue sky thinkers, very ambitious. So we'd love there to be like a Yada in every city. Wouldn't that be? It'd be crazy. It'd be pretty amazing as well. So yeah, and part of the idea is that when we started off with the charity, we recognised that actually we could be supporting communities and the disenfranchised and the marginalised as well at the same time. So that's why we made it a not-for-profit, and we're going to be using it as a venue that we can then kind of, I guess, speak life into the city, but partnering up with different charities who actually do the important work is the best way to say it. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully, if we can create more elsewhere, obviously Derby's got to go well first. And yeah, we can be part of different cities and support the local communities and wherever they are.
Nice. Yeah. I want to insert you now, Rhondell. I'm going to jump ahead to September, right? And I want you to imagine that you're walking through the doors of Yada on a night. We're talking Freshers Week, yeah. Okay. We're talking Freshers Week. You walk through the doors of Yada. What do you find?
Oh, that is a good question. Hopefully it's full. I think during Freshers Week we want to provide a space where people can, especially in Freshers Week, where all your attention is based on meeting people and meeting people rapidly. It's such a difficult time. I'm just thinking back to mine. You just meet people in really random places, and you're like best friends the next day. It's a very strange period. So I think in September, a place where you can come without the driver or influence of alcohol, where you can just build some decent friendships and meet people and feel like you're in a safe space. because yeah, the nighttime economy is a very odd space, really. It can be quite it can be amazing. I'm not gonna kind of put any downers on that, but it also can be quite scary and quite a dangerous space, which people don't talk about as much. So yeah, we want to create a safe space where people can come and meet. And yeah, if you're not the sort of person who wants to get absolutely hammered during Freshers Week and not remember the week, then we'll be the space for you.
Yeah,
I'll always remember it. Oh, sorry, Vicky, you go.
Just gonna say, I think we're both gonna share a story, but I remember my Freshers Week. I think I'd been there like a week, and it was a second church service I'd gone to, but of the same church. And our sheet worker at the time said, "Oh, how are you finding Freshers Week?" and that kind of stuff. And I said, "Oh, it's good, but unless you know the city, or unless you kind of have found your pool of people, there's not really much to do other than to go out and drink loads."
Yeah.
And that just wasn't something that I was interested in. And it was a real struggle finding places that I could actually meet friends who were like-minded and didn't necessarily want to go out and drink loads, or just wanted to go out and have a really fun night, but like not be influenced by alcohol. Like it was hard. So I definitely think, take it back a few years to when I was a fresher, I would have loved Yada. It would have been so good.
We would have done as well, but I think from my point of view, the thing that I'm remembering is that actually my mates would have done too. So in my flat, when I was in freshers, we went pretty hard, I think, for like the first 4 or 5 nights. Then you got the wristband and you're like, I've got to get my money's worth.
Yeah.
So you're there and you're like, you're going hard, and you get to, I think it was like Thursday, and we were all just knackered. And we ended up just spending the night in the flat in like the communal hallway, doing a Cliff Richard jigsaw puzzle that we bought from a charity shop, which it turns out was missing like 10 pieces. So we did that, and I remember thinking, like, when you were talking about that, goodness, yeah, like if there'd been a place where we could have said we can just go and we can chill out in the evening. So I've seen some other stuff about it recently as well. It was like, why aren't cafes open late? Why aren't like places like that? Because why is it always like pubs and clubs and other things like that? So yeah, I can just think off the top of my mind, like, as much as the students maybe who are going to uni who do know Jesus would be like, yes, this would be a great place to go. Actually, I think other people who are just sort of worn down by the kind of night after nightness of being at university, particularly in Freshers Week.
Yeah, and that's where we want it to be a place where everyone can. So we've had a few people say, "Oh, who would actually?" Yeah, you get the bigger drinkers who are like, "What's the point?" Well, actually, there is a lot of point then. There's a lot of people that can't drink, whether it's medical reasons or by choice. There's, like, as you said, people who've had a few hard nights and are like, "I can't do that again," because even if you do try, it's not a great night. Trying to go like a 4th, 5th night in a row. I think I was close to going out every night, and we had 2 weeks, which was hard, very long 2 weeks. But I like what you were saying, Vicky, about meeting like-minded people, because like you think you're meeting like-minded people when you're going out and getting drunk, but like you haven't actually met them properly.
Yeah. And
you build relationships quite quickly. It takes you a few weeks to go, actually, I don't really like them, or we have nothing in common. How did that happen? So I found that quite funny. Like seeing who I was with for Freshers fortnight for us, and then like literally 2 weeks down the line going like, yeah, I have no classes with you. I've never seen you again. Yeah, it's a very odd time. But yeah.
It is a really interesting time, and you've touched on this a bit already, but you're going to expand on what difference do you think it would make to students, yes, in their Freshers Week, but all year round? What difference do you think it would make to them if they could kind of go dry or have those alcohol-free nights, even if it's just like once a week or once a month? What difference do you think it would make to their lives?
Yeah, I think it's interesting having, like, every now and again a bit of a reset. We see a lot of people do, like, I think it's sober October and dry January. There's now like a sober spring, which I didn't know about until recently. But I think people are looking at doing like smaller, like, reset times. In terms of like health benefits, there's obviously quite a lot in terms of like in better mental health and increasing your sleep pattern, well, better quality sleep anyway, healthier skin. There's a lot of those types of things, and just general reduced risk of a number of diseases. I was looking at it the other day, and I was like, that's just quite a lot. So do have a look if you have time to see the general benefits. Or just as a disclaimer, I do still drink. I wanted to make sure that I was clear about that. I don't drink anywhere near as much as I used to, sorry. But yeah, and obviously the alcohol-free drinks, I've actually found ones that I really like. So I'm kind of moderating, as people would say. But I think from our perspective, and a lot of what, sorry, I'll take it back to one of the other stories. I think when I was a student, we were on a night out, and I turned to one of my friends and I was like, oh yeah, why don't we go dance? And they were like, oh, I've not had enough to drink yet. I was like, that feels like quite a, and I was like, oh, are you holding on to that more than I thought you were? And then I started to have similar conversations with other people, just like, oh, I couldn't go talk to that person without having a few drinks, or I couldn't do this, or I couldn't do that. And it's like, how, I don't think people realize how much of a leniency they have on it sometimes. And that's what I think when I started to ask a few questions, like, well, I come out and drink with you guys because I'm enjoying time with you, but actually I don't need to drink.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of a concern there. And yeah, I think that's probably when I first started asking what could it look like if you had a bunch of sober people in this room right now, what would that look like? And yeah.
Well, I mean, like, but it's interesting as well because the evidence supports that story, Rhondell. So we spend a lot of time at Fusion training people, kind of preparing young people for university. So in the summer before they go, we'd like to spend some time with them. And when we did this last year, we were kind of delivering a few sessions to them. I was in charge of the culture section, and I'd always begin with you'd ask them to put. We're on Zoom, so we said put the first word in the chat that pops into your head when I use the phrase university culture. And every time it's like drink, parties, alcohol, and as you'd expect. And so we did a little bit more digging into this to see what was going on. We found the results of an NUS survey, National Union of Students, and we found that 79% of students felt like alcohol was a very important part of university culture. But we also found that 78% of students, only 1% less, didn't think they needed to get drunk to have a good night.
Yeah,
and that percentage has grown as well over the last few years. They're talking about this upcoming generation drinking less in general. I think our generation as well drink less than the older generations. They're still quite a bit of binge drinking though, which is probably where that 79% come from.
Yeah.
They're still, even though they don't think that they need it, they're still, or even though they're drinking less, they're drinking high quantities when they do. Just quite an interesting development actually.
Definitely. I'd love to share a quick story that comes to mind of me and my uni days. So I've been out of uni 4 years now. So I'm saying that to show that I have grown since then. But I also feel this is quite a funny story. So and maybe relatable to some. So we did my second year of uni, we did like a club mission night, but it was from inside the club. So we hired a bunch of booths and things like that, and then if anybody was like wanted to have a chat, and they could come to the booth and have a chat. It was a good idea in theory. The problem was I was a second year university student who hadn't actually learnt their limits with drink, and I remember this girl talking to me, and she was asking so many good questions about faith, and I couldn't they were really difficult conversations, difficult questions. I couldn't piece my answers together. And it wasn't that I was like, had drunk way too much, but even just like a few drinks as I was learning my limits, I was like, I actually can't give this girl an answer. And I think it was from that night onwards that I realized I'm never going to get myself in a situation where if someone wants to know about Jesus, I'm the reason that they're not going to know. And I just found that so challenging at the time, where I was like, I could share this with you. This could be an opportunity for you to hear. And I've done things that have created barriers for myself to sharing. So for me, that was a huge kind of, I felt really convicted around not drinking, because that's same as you, Rhondell, like I'll still have a drink, but knowing my limits and being able to always be open to sharing the gospel in whatever circumstance.
Yeah.
So
I think it's,
yeah, carry on, Rhondell.
I was just going to say, like, I would say probably every Christian student has had that in some form. It might not be alcohol, but in terms of like just being in a situation where like they just weren't, because of whatever they were doing, they were like, I just can't piece together. I had something similar where it was in the toilets of the men's toilets of the nightclub, and I was chatting to someone about faith, and all of a sudden there were like 5 people around. Granted, we were actually next to the sink, so I'm assuming other people just wanted to sink. But like, I spent a good 10-15 minutes just chatting to a group of people, but then I never was able to follow it up because I was a bit drunk, they were a bit drunk. It just kind of disappeared. I was like, oh man, like I spent all that time but I guess nothing's wasted in that sense. But I think a lot of people probably have a similar story to that, where they had the chance, but then on the flip side, I think I had a very opposite reaction to being consistently out with the rugby guys, because then like on my stag do, they played a drinking game. I won't go into the full details, but we played a drinking game on my stag do, and actually they used one of my friends had used the biblical stories because they knew I was Christian, so they used the biblical stories to make this drinking game, which I thought was brilliant. And they'd had a few rules where I was just like, you guys have listened to me over these years. You've actually paid attention. I've not just been saying a load of random stuff. So I think there is a bit around like consistency and staying with people, and because yes, we're talking about not being in a drinking environment, but actually there are some benefits there, and there are people that you're called into community with as well. So I do want to mention that, just in case like people, because you get, I guess, the opposite side where people are like, I'm never going out, I'm be strong in my faith, and I'm not mixing, and at that point they're, I guess, cutting off a load of people that they could be meeting and talking to and witnessing to. So there are two sides.
I love answering that question. I feel like I always get it from mums, the people who are about to go to university. None of them are at like a festival like Spring Harvest or what would have been Soul Survivor, to be there on the stand, and we get mums of people who are about to go to university coming up to us and asking us questions. And one of the ones that asked would always be, should my little angel be in the nightclub? To which the short answer is yes. But obviously they'll know themselves, better than I will. They know what will be helpful for them and what might not be helpful for them. But the short answer is always yes, because you can get in that club and you can get your twinkle toes on for Jesus. I certainly enjoyed that. So I wanted to ask Rhondell, one of your students, like say at Reach Derby, they come to you and they say, hey, I really want to invite my flat, or I want to invite my sports team, whoever it is, for like a night of like dry, a night of no alcohol at Yada. How would you sort of encourage them, and how would you advise them to start approaching it?
Yeah, I think there's something about having a drink in your hand. So I think what we've found, especially in the last year, is that the alcohol-free drinks industry has rapidly taken off, and they're good, which is when we first started in 2017, when we were doing like alcohol-free nights, we were just like making stuff up, and they were okay, but our cocktail making wasn't great back then. We had a load of people who were just coming to support us, which is really good, but also we were starting to engage with some people outside of that, which was really good. But yeah, do have a look now. at some alcohol-free options, because there is something about eating together, drinking together, participating in that side of it, because there's for some reason there's something about, I guess it might be safety, I don't know. Sometimes you feel a little safer just having something in your hand. So first I'd say definitely look at some options. Like, don't just remove the alcohol and not really replace it with anything. Like, foods obviously is the number one go-to. But we do have alcohol-free options on our website if people want to try them out, test them out. But yeah, there's loads now, so that's great. What else would I say? What else would we say? I'm assuming this is just an alcohol-free night.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing like that the student is going to expect a response of, why don't we just go to a normal pub or a normal bar? How would you encourage them to answer that?
Yeah, I think I guess you could, depends which route, you could go down the health benefit side of, I just want a night off, or I'm being dry for a month, or I think it's not, I don't think it's that difficult anymore, because I guess people, especially now we're starting to be released from lockdown, people just want to do stuff.
Yeah.
People just want to meet up again. So yeah, I think the answers would be yes around the health benefits. One is like, I don't really feel like drinking right now. And then two, just be like, well, actually there's different ways of doing things, and why don't you try it? Why don't you try it is always a good, like, just give it a go. If you don't like it, we'll move on. But I guess it's quite interesting, because I think vegetarians get the same sort of vegetarians, vegans, those with lactose intolerance, those with just any dietary requirements. There's always that awkward conversation of, oh, actually, could we go here, or because they've got a better option for me, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I haven't had a hard time convincing any of my friends, even some of the guys I used to play rugby with. One of my best friends, who actually made the drinking game up at on my stag do, he's moved down south now, and we're supporting him with his new podcast, and he's just tried a few of the alcohol-free drinks, and he was quite impressed. So I think that first taste is always always an important one. So, yeah, trying things out.
And sometimes what I found is when you similar kind of thing to when you go for a coffee shop. I love going to coffee shops, but there are only really so many orders of coffee you can make. You can't just keep ordering coffee, you won't be very well. And I think it's the same for if you go on a night out to a bar. There's only so many drinks you could actually order before you stop enjoying them. And I think the beauty of Yada is, like, you could spend such a long time there and try a load of different things, and you could just keep going. And I think that's that would be such a fun connection point for students, to not be like, oh, we've got to get home now because they've had too much, or whatever it is. You could just keep ordering all the fun drinks, and I love that idea. That's really cool.
Yeah, we're also trying to figure out how we where we sit on, like, obviously it's going to be an alcohol-free space, but if someone wants to come and sober up, that's a conversation we're still trying to have at the moment. We could be a good space, and we're going to aim to talk to we're going to talk to the street pastors just to see if there's anything we can help out there, because now we have a permanent space. And I think that's one of the things that we were thinking when we first started, was that the street pastors are doing a really good job, but a lot of it is cleaning up the mess. Yeah. And a lot of it is like picking people up and getting in taxis. And I was like, if we had, hopefully when we have a bigger space as well, we'll be able to have a little bit of a relationship with them to find basically a place of safety to especially if it's raining.
That's true.
Get some flip-flops and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome.
That's so I've already asked you then, what would you say to a student? What would you say now then to a student worker who's going to be listening to this in another part of the country, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, yes, I can see exactly where in my city, in my town, we have a need for something like Yada. What would you say to them?
First, get in touch, because we really want to kind of help people do similar things like this. And
where should they email?
Rhondell, so my name, Rhondell, and then at yardacollective.co.uk. YADACO, spelling, LLECTIVE.
Oh, well done.
Well
But yeah, we do get in touch, and part of it's just find some people who are interested and just get going. We did this for a bit. We did like sober alcohol-free nights meetups at like a local coffee shop. So we did that for a bit. We then hired a building for a little bit of time we did like a party vibe. But I think people are looking for something a little bit different and to try something new and to socialize. Like you said, there isn't really any other option, which is one of the bigger reasons why we wanted to do it, because there was just no option if you didn't want to drink to go somewhere else. So yeah, get in touch. You could be our second location. That'd be amazing. But yeah, definitely look at just starting off with a few of your students. We did it when we originally started. It was mainly our young adults group from church, and a couple of other churches as well started to kind of gather and do some stuff together. So yeah, it might just start off like that, but it's definitely a space where there's opportunity to reach the rest of the community, especially for students. I think there's going to be a lot of students now who just don't drink and they're not interested in freshers at all. We've started to pick up on that. In Derby, just a few people who were like, well, I think we met some guys at church and we're like, oh, how's Freshers Week? We're like, we've just stayed in our flat.
Right.
I think that might become a little bit more commonplace. I think it's we'll see how things go, and I'd love to hear from any student worker who's interested in doing something.
Yeah, well, you've done a great job, Rhondell, of communicating the value, I think, in establishing something like Yarda. So hopefully there will be student workers who are listening to this thinking, yes, that could be me. Somebody starts to set up an alcohol-free alternative to the town or city's nightlife. So, Rhondell, is there anything else that you want to make people aware of with Yarda?
Not sure. So yeah, we're planning on opening in June. Follow us on social media, just at Yarda Collective. Try some drinks out, buy some on the website.
Rhondell, what's good?
What's good?
What's your favourite?
What's my Lucky Saint is actually my favourite.
What's that?
It's a lager.
Right.
It's an alcohol-free lager. It's very good. They've actually started putting it on tap in some of the pubs down in London as well. That's my favourite. I might get a message later being like, why didn't you mention us? So I'll stick with that one for now. Yeah, there are some really good ones. Interestingly, quite a few have like Christian-esque naming. So like Lucky Saint, they've got the verse about don't drink a lot of wine, etc. So that there's an interesting like Christian-esque I guess marketing ploy in a lot of the drinks. I know there's actually a brewery called Northern Monk who are an alcohol brewery, but actually they've got a few alcohol-free options, and they've got like the pilgrimage and all that sort of stuff. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, my favourite's Lucky Saint. So definitely buy.
You mentioned Lucky Saint, Rhondell. This entire time that we've been talking, I've been realising that where you're sat in your house right now, you've got some of your very lovely wife's artwork behind you.
Yes, I do.
And that one there, the way that it's been like around your head makes it look like you're some kind of saint in a stained glass window.
Hey.
It's a really good position. Yeah.
What a shame. Thank you so much for coming on, Rhondell. It'd be great to finish in prayer. If you could pray for people who are listening to this, people who are going to be coming to university in Derby over the next few years, and they start to think about what could be some other alternatives to nightlife, but then also students around the country as well, as they also start to consider the value of encouraging their mates to to take nights off alcohol. You pray for us.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time to talk about this project, and we just thank you that we've been given a chance to just share something that a lot of people find quite odd. We just ask that you embolden and encourage some of the student workers listening to this, that they can try. It might not be an alcohol-free night, but it could be something totally countercultural in their city, and totally mind-boggling to the students that they serve. Lord, we just pray for just some of the students who are preparing for uni culture. May those who are a bit uncertain about the drinking culture be emboldened to find like-minded people who are all about building authentic relationship. And Lord, we just pray for those who do find themselves in the drinking culture, that they are an amazing light in those places, a place where they can demonstrate your love in every single way. And then, just thank you for these guys as well. Thank you for Fusion and all that they do, and for sharing stories and resourcing student workers and churches to reach the students of this nation. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Rhondell, for joining us today. It's been a joy to have you. It's terrifically exciting. We will keep.
I've just remembered. I've been messaged, so I've almost forgotten. If you type in Fusion 5, if you are going to buy any of our alcohol-free drinks on our website, Fusion 5, you get 5% off.
Hey,
I almost forgot.
Oh, I've always got a discount code. That's unbelievable. Fusion 5 at checkout.
Does this, Sam, I have a question. Does this make us influencers?
Yes, it does.
Wow.
We can also make that happen, but we can talk about that later.
We love that.
Well,
thank you so much.
You go check Yard Collective out. It was well worth it. If not least for some lovely photos of Rhondell on the website. So it's bye from Rhondell. And me and Vicky will see the rest of you next time on the Fusion Podcast.